Welcome back to our Explainer series. If you've been following along, you know we've already met St. Matthew, the former tax collector, and St. Mark, the faithful companion of Peter. Today, in part 3, St. Luke, we're shifting our focus to one of the most remarkable and honestly kind of unique writers of the entire New Testament. Right off the bat, we're faced with a fascinating paradox. How did a non-eyewitness write a gospel? Think about it. Unlike Matthew and John, Luke wasn't one of the original 12 apostles. He wasn't there for the Sermon on the Mount, and he literally wasn't an eyewitness to most of Jesus' earthly ministry. Yet somehow, he managed to write one of the most incredibly detailed and historically accurate gospels we have. It's a brilliant puzzle, right? So how exactly did he pull that off? To solve this mystery, we first need to look at his background. Section 1, Meet the Beloved Physician, Profile of the Investigator. St. Paul perfectly anchors Luke's identity for us right in the primary text, writing, "Luke the beloved physician greets you." Now this is huge. He wasn't just a casual observer, the guy was a medical professional. Just think about the mindset required for that profession back then. Observant, meticulous, highly educated, and deeply invested in the human condition. Plus, a fun little bonus, he's probably the only gospel writer who actually had legible handwriting. When we look at his credentials, it's pretty clear he possessed the exact skill set needed to compile a historically accurate account. I mean, we're talking about someone who was highly educated and a genuinely excellent writer. He was a careful investigator, and, crucially, he was a faithful companion of St. Paul on his missionary journeys. He traveled everywhere with Paul, sticking by his side even during some incredibly difficult times. He had the total dedication and the sharp analytical thinking of a true scholar. So, how does a doctor turn into a masterful historian? Well, he actually tells us. Section 2, The Investigator's Method, Searching for the Truth. I absolutely love the opening of his gospel because it reveals that he approached his writing with incredible rigor. He explicitly states, "Since many have undertaken to compile a narrative, it seemed good to me also, having followed all things closely for some time past, to write an orderly account." Notice what he's doing here? He isn't claiming to have been standing there when it all happened. Instead, he's basically telling us he acted like an ancient investigative journalist, compiling a rock-solid narrative based on meticulous research. And here is exactly how that orderly account came together, transforming abstract history into a very active, methodical procedure. Step 1, he went out and carefully gathered information directly from the eyewitnesses who were actually there. Step 2, he faithfully recorded their testimony. And step 3, he did all of this writing under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. You see, God inspired his careful historical research just as much as he inspired the first-hand witnesses. It's a real partnership. Now, this method brilliantly illustrates a major point when it comes to defending the faith. Skeptics, they'll sometimes argue that the gospel writers just invented stories out of thin air. But Luke's rigorous approach challenges that head-on. The early church recognized his gospel as inspired, specifically because it faithfully preserved apostolic witness through deep, verifiable investigation. What you absolutely need to take away from this is simple but so profound. Faith is not opposed to history or careful investigation. Truth welcomes both. And because of that deep investigation, Luke uncovered beloved stories found absolutely nowhere else. Section 3, Luke's unique discoveries, the exclusive passages. Seriously, just take a look at this list. So many iconic, foundational moments of the Christian faith only exist for us because Luke went out and did the legwork. We've got the Annunciation to Mary, the visitation to Elizabeth, the beautiful nativity scene with the shepherds, the presentation in the temple. And look at those last two down there, the parable of the Good Samaritan and the parable of the prodigal son. If Luke hadn't done his rigorous research, we literally wouldn't have these absolute masterpieces of storytelling today. And running right through these specific, exclusive stories, Luke's overarching theme shines incredibly bright. If you read The Good Samaritan or The Prodigal Son, you immediately see it, right? He highlights an immense compassion for those on the margins of society. His gospel consistently emphasizes God's mercy, his love for sinners, the poor, and the marginalized. It is 100% the perspective of a beloved physician who cared deeply for the broken and the hurting. But here's the kicker. Luke's investigative work didn't just stop with the earthly ministry of Jesus. Section 4, the second book, Expanding the Legacy. Yep, he is actually the only gospel writer to pen a sequel. He thoroughly documented the life of Christ in his gospel, and then he followed it right up with the birth of the early church in the Acts of the Apostles. Acts picks up right after Christ's ascension. It records Pentecost, the explosive growth of the early church, and the crucial missionary work of the apostles, especially Peter and, of course, his close traveling companion, Paul. So together, these two volumes seamlessly weave into each other. They aren't just two random, disconnected books. They create one massive, unified historical arc of God's plan of salvation. He gives us the complete story, from the very beginning of Christ's life all the way through the explosive wildfire spread of the early church. It's the whole shebang. So why does this ancient physician matter to you and me today? Section 5, History Meets Faith, the takeaway. The ultimate reflection for us is this: God can use our earthly talents, education, and professions for his glory. Just as Luke placed his medical background, his towering intellect, and his literary gifts at the service of the truth, you and I are invited to do the exact same thing. Whether you're a teacher, a doctor, a factory worker, a student, or a parent, you have unique gifts. Luke served Christ with his dedication to truth and we're called to imitate him by seeking the truth, living it, and courageously sharing it through whatever our daily work happens to be. Now, before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to ponder ahead of our fourth and final installment. We've covered Matthew, Mark, and now Luke. Next time, we meet St. John. Why was John called the disciple whom Jesus loved? And here's a really tough question. Was he actually loved more than the other apostles? Think about that and join us next time as we unpack the profound mystery of the beloved disciple. I'll see you then.